Hello, everybody, and welcome today to the beautiful Yacht Club. And if you were here to decorate, you're in the wrong place. But I'm sure they solicited you when you walked in the door, right? You're here today because the Neighborhood Watch program decided to do an emergency preparedness presentation. And this will be a little overview on things that you should be thinking about all the time. In light of what happened in North Carolina and Helene and East Tennessee, this is very important information that everybody should always, think about on a periodic basis and update yourself on. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sherry Lee, and I am your Neighborhood Watch leader, Tellico Village Neighborhood Watch leader. I'm also the coordinator for the Mialacqua neighborhood right now. Present today, I have a couple other coordinators here that are in our Neighborhood Watch program. I've got Sharon Mitchell from Tokwa and Lisa Lawson from Kahidi. So the Neighborhood Watch program recently is gearing up for 2025 with a lot of exciting things to come. We were under the HOA for a while and had a great success under the HOA, and recently, like the Highway Advisory Committee, we transitioned over to the POA. And the one major plus about transitioning over to the POA is we are able to reach a lot more of the community based on the telegram and getting the information out to everyone. Again, my name is Sherry Lee, and I've been a Tellico Village resident for about 3.5, almost 4 years now. I moved here in 2021. I lived in Kahidi for a little bit, and then I moved over here to the main village, and again, I live in Mialacqua. My background is 31 years of law enforcement in Los Angeles, and so I was born and raised in the California area. I moved to Colorado, and then I moved after shoveling snow for 2 winters, which is part of a hazard, emergency. I decided to come to Tennessee, East Tennessee, and just absolutely love it here. This program has been presented in various entities by another Tellico Village resident by the name of Kevin Haney, and he is the expert in this field. He has done this program at the library, and he did a program in front of about 120 people in Kahidi last November. So I took the program, I tweaked it a little bit because he couldn't be here today. He's unfortunately out of town, but I do want to give credit to Kevin, who is an expert in this field and who in future programs I'll make sure he's actually doing the presentation, because he brings a lot of material and samples for you to touchy-feely and do with. So unfortunately I don't have that stuff today. So let's get started. Types of disasters. We've got winter storms, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. How many people here have had to endure something major in this natural disaster type of thing? Yeah, most people have, especially if you've moved from the Northeast, where you've had severe snowstorms. You've lived in Florida with hurricanes, California, earthquakes, wildfires. I particularly have a lot of experience living through earthquakes and wildfires coming from California. Not only actually living through it, but having to work through it, as a first responder. So, these are types of natural disasters that can happen anytime, anywhere, as evident with Helene in North Carolina and East Tennessee recently. But we also have other types of disasters. We have cyber attacks nowadays. We have epidemics and pandemics. We have explosives, train explosions, hazardous materials, hazmat things that happen when the train explodes, gases, mass power failures, radiological attacks. Okay, these are things that when you say disaster, you think of hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes. You don't think of things like this. And these kind of things are becoming a little bit more prevalent in today's day and age too. And the reason being is because we have the internet. We're more aware of when these things happen. You don't hear, 20 years ago, you didn't hear about a mass power failure in let's say Wisconsin, I'm not picking on Wisconsin for any particular reason, but a mass power failure there if you lived in Arizona, because you didn't really see it. You didn't see it on the media, you didn't see it on your local news, you didn't see it on the internet. So, but nowadays we hear about all this stuff all the time. You log on your computer and you're gonna see something going on somewhere in the world. One of the things you have to know when you are experiencing these natural or non-natural disasters is how will you receive alerts and warnings? A lot of us, you'll be sleeping in the middle of the night and then all of a sudden your phone is going off, meh, meh. Okay, well, there's an alert, whether it be an Amber Alert or some type of emergency alert. But there are weather apps available for cell phones, the Weather Channel, WeatherBug, AccuWeather, RadarScope, HyperReach. HyperReach is an alerting system for all the disasters in Loudoun County. If you have not signed up for HyperReach, you probably should. And the next slide, what I encourage you to do is, you'll see the website for it, and I would, log on, and even if you just Google HyperReach Loudoun County, you'll get to that app, and you'll be able to download that HyperReach. You've got the FEMA app. You've got Ready Tennessee app for cell phones, you've got local TV stations, and there's AM, FM radio, and who also is really good at receiving alerts and warnings, or how do you get them, is friends, neighbors, and family members. I don't know how many times I've gotten a text from someone in California who says, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, yeah, why? "Oh, we saw on the news there's a tornado coming to Tennessee." I'm like, okay, well, I don't live on the west side of Tennessee. I live on the east side, but thank you for thinking about me. And I didn't even realize there was going to be a tornado in the, Nashville area or anything. So friends, families, and neighbors. The one thing also about neighbors, and this is part of the Tellico Neighborhood Watch program, is that you might hear about something coming and you have a neighbor that doesn't watch the TV or doesn't have a computer, and it's important for you to always look out for each other and make sure that you bring awareness to the people around you. This is what you should see when you Google HyperReach Loudoun County, and the sign up is signup.hyper-reach.com. If you just go to hyperreach.com, I think you're probably going to get that. What are some resources that come and help us when there is a disaster? Okay, you've got federal resources, state resources, local resources, private resources. Think about if there's a major disaster here, flooding, hurricane, we're going to call the 911 and we're going to get Tellico Village Fire Department. And who is Tellico Village Fire Department? They're all volunteers and they all live here too. So they're going to be experiencing the exact same problem you're experiencing at that given moment, and trying to secure their homes, secure their loved ones, make sure everything. But like most first responders, they'll probably go to work too, and they'll try to come out and help everybody. But keep it in mind when something does happen and you think, I'm calling 911, why is nobody coming? Well, a lot of times first responders, the sheriff's department, the other local city, county fire departments, they got to get their people to work. And once they get to work, because they've also experienced the same disaster, once they get to work, then they've got to gear up, have a tactical plan, and then go out to the most hardest hit areas for rescue and emergency services first. So what might be your emergency isn't that high of a priority at this point in time. I do know that in the recent Helene hurricane and the flooding, Loudoun County and Monroe County, both those sheriff's departments set huge contingencies down to those areas. Monroe County Sheriff's Department sent a squad of deputies to go rescue those people that were on top of that hospital that flooded. So your local resources also leave the area for the harder hit areas to help out. And then your best resource is you, which is why most of you are here, because you want to be educated and you want to be aware and you want to know what you can do to help yourself and your immediate loved ones and your neighbors when something does happen. Why is it important to prepare for an emergency? Well, you've taken the first step by coming to this program or watching it on TVN Live. During an emergency, you might need to evacuate your house. What do you take with you? How long will you be gone? During an emergency, you might need to shelter in place. Do you have enough supplies? How long will you need to stay home? These are things you have to think about. But don't panic, okay? It sounds like a doomsday thing, you know? I know that I do this program, and I've been thinking about this program and presenting it, and I thought, gosh, this is so depressing. And I don't want people to think of this as a oh my God, that's doomsday, what am I gonna do? It's more about, you know, oh, I'm prepared. I'm ready to take this on, and I can take it on, okay? So now what? In your little handouts today in that trifold, a lot of this information is in there, so you'll be able to take it home, go over it with your loved ones, with your family, with your neighbors, and it doesn't necessarily pertain just to Tellico Village, but could be anywhere. Make an emergency plan. You know, 4 questions to ask yourself. How will I receive emergency alerts and warnings? What is my shelter plan? What is my evacuation route? And what is my communications plan? And the most important thing is that every member of your household is familiar with the plan. Don't plan it all out and don't tell your spouse, because then you're going to be running around trying to educate your spouse, and then you're going to be wasting a lot of time. And that happens, trust me, I know. Some of you are laughing. Evacuation route is very important to me, because as we all know, Tellico Village sits on 444. Okay, if the bridges go out on both ends of 444, where are we going? How are we going to get out of Tellico Village? Or even how are you going to get out of your neighborhood if a huge tree comes down, which that happens, okay? So have the plan to evacuate, but also if you can't evacuate, have the shelter in place plan until you can evacuate. And you know, when I did this program, or when we did this program, Kahidi, we really struck on Kahidi has one entrance in to go in and get out, one entrance. If that entrance, you cannot access that, you cannot get in and out of Kahidi. So again, we have 444, Highway 444, but there are some ways to get out of Tellico Village, you know, Maple Hill Road, some of the other side street roads, and we can get out. But what's going to, for all of those of you who have driven on some of those other roads to get out of Tellico Village, what's on those roads? And how small are those roads? And will those roads also be accessible, or will they not be accessible? And now you get all the way back into those farmland areas and you can't get out. So, you know your evacuation route. Drive it every once in a while, maybe once a year. Drive what you think is your evacuation route and make sure it still looks the same. Because even in Tellico Village, you can drive down a street today and then 3 months from now there's 6 houses on that street. That's not the same street you drove on. So know what your evacuation routes are. Okay, what's my emergency plan? Complete a contact card for important phone numbers and ensure everyone has one. Okay, if you lose your cell phone, I know me, I'm screwed, because I do not have everybody's phone number written down, and let alone I don't know everybody's phone number. Okay, create an out-of-town contact, someone that following a disaster, you and your family members can contact and let them know where everyone is. Maybe it's a relative, maybe it's a son or daughter, maybe it's a brother, sister, someone who does not live in this area that everybody can call and say, I'm okay, I'm good, we're gonna go here or whatever, and that person can be your master general for planning. Decide where to meet. You could be separated. Someone could be out golfing, your spouse could be at hand and foot, you could be separated, so choose a place, or even inside your home, because I know that happens too. You separate from your spouse at home, okay? Choose a place either right outside your home in case of a sudden emergency, or choose a location outside your neighborhood in case you can't return home. Same thing with the evacuation routes. What if you're not home and you're trying to get home and you can't get back into Tellico Village, know where you might want to go. Know escape routes and safe places. Know the best ways to exit your home to get to the safest place outside. If you're sheltering in place, know where to go in your home. For example, the lowest floor or an interior room or closet with no windows. And those are things that we all learned a long time ago, even in elementary school or whatever. You always find an interior room with no windows. Again, you want to get to the safest place outside. Don't stand next to that 100-year-old tree that's been leaning for 8 months, and don't. And I say these things not to be funny, because in a moment of panic, people will do things like that and not think about it, because you're not thinking about, oh, that tree's old, that tree's going to come down, that big branch that's hanging down is going to fall. So, in all humor, it's good to keep it in mind, but at the same time, we're all going to be in a moment of fury. I know that. What's my evacuation plan? Identify several places you could go in an emergency, such as a family member or a friend's house in another town or state. That's kind of important, because some people say, oh, I'll just go to my friends in Lenore City, or I got a friend that lives over on the other side of Loudon. Well, if this whole area is impacted by natural disaster, maybe a mass power outage or something, it's not a good place to go close by. If you have family that lives in another town close by, somewhere a little bit farther out, it's probably a good option to go to. If needed, identify a place that will take pets. Most public shelters only allow service animals. So, perfect example, myself. I've got 4 dogs. Where am I going to go with 4 dogs? I'm sure there's not a lot of people going to open their door to me either. So remember that. If you have to be able to take your pets, you're not going to leave them there, or at least I hope not. Plan for those with disabilities and other special needs. There's a lot of people here who have disabilities, wheelchair, walkers, oxygen tanks. Those are things you need to plan for if you're going to evacuate. Be familiar with the alternate routes and various means of transportation out of your area. Again, we talked about that. Have an emergency go kit ready. It should have at least 3 days of supplies, and you're able to carry it. That's the important part, and we'll get to that. Wear appropriate clothing, long pants, long sleeves, sturdy shoes. In cold climate, take a jacket. And don't evacuate in flip-flops, shorts, and a tank top, because I guarantee you it's not going to be comfortable in the long run. Items to bring with you: an emergency go kit, a pet emergency go kit. This should contain items for at least 72 hours. It does not have to be expensive or elaborate, but remember, you have to carry this kit wherever you go, so don't make it too heavy. A battery-powered radio, cell phone and chargers, backup batteries and chargers for your devices. Leave a note at home telling others when you left and where you're going. And sadly, photos of your family members in case you need to give them to officials to search for. Okay, and we all know that there have been natural disasters where people are unaccounted for and we can't find them. And then everybody panics and they're trying to get a hold of their loved ones who live there. And, first responders can only do so much. And then helping to identify people, whether they were injured and in a hospital or whether they were deceased because of the disaster, is very important. Okay, an emergency go kit. This is not solid in stone, but these are some things you should think about, and this is listed in that little trifold pamphlet you got handed out. An emergency family plan and a pet plan. So that included what I talked about earlier, your phone numbers, addresses, and things that you need when you evacuate. Water. 1 gallon per person per day. That's what they recommend. Food, energy bars, non-perishable food, lightweight, but provides energy when you need it. Don't, hang on, I'm going to do questions at the end. There are rations, people sell military rations and things like that. I mean, I don't know if I would particularly buy all that stuff because it sits for a long time and it's supposed to be able to sit for a long time, but if you have it and you want to use it, those are lightweight and easy to carry. Clothing, a blanket, and maybe a sleeping bag would be helpful because you don't know where you're going to be. A first aid kit. People get injured when you evacuate and there's an emergency. Something inevitably might cut you, or you might fall. You might come across somebody who has an injury. You're going to need a first aid kit. An NOAA all hazards radio. Not everybody has one. I'm not telling you to go out and buy one. I'm just saying that it's a recommendation because it'll give you the immediate alerts. Any medications you need. How many people in here have medications that they take every day, okay, myself included? Make sure you have them with you. What happens when you're not on your meds? Things start to go a little kooky and you panic and you need to have your meds. So make sure you have meds set aside or ready for your emergency go kit. A flashlight or a battery-powered lantern for nighttime, power outage. It gets awfully dark here in Tellico Village. N95 masks, and that's for hazards. If there's dust or a lot of things floating in the air from whatever happened, you might want to wear a mask. Local maps, preferred printed, AAA. I know this generation in this room still knows how to read a map, okay? Younger generation relies on this to get everywhere, right? Okay, so when I saw this on the list, local maps, I thought, well, everybody in Tellico Village probably still has a 1985 AAA map, right? Might not have all the streets in Tellico Village on it, but it'll get you the main routes out, okay? A cell phone charger, a plug-in, or a portable battery charger. Sanitizer wipes and hand sanitizer. You're going to get dirty. If you're evacuating and there's an emergency and there may not be running water, you're going to get dirty. Your hands are going to get dirty, so you're going to want to clean them. Extra batteries for either a hearing aid or your radio or whatever else. Copies of important documents, medical insurance, POA, and I'm not talking about our POA, our governing body. I'm talking about power of attorneys. Healthcare directives. You might want to have that in case you get hospitalized or your other significant other does end up having to get transported and go somewhere. A multi-purpose tool. I found this interesting, and to be honest, I didn't think about it for my personal emergency go kit, but now I have. There's always a screw that came loose on something, or you need to pry something really quick or whatever. So these little multi-purpose tools might come in handy for just that one little thing that you need. And then money. What happened in North Carolina and even here locally when Ingalls their computers died because of the flooding and stuff? You couldn't use your credit card at Ingalls here in Lenore City. And during a major incident, and everything goes out, power goes out, things go out, you can't just whip out your debit card or your credit card and, oh, I need to buy some gas or I need to buy some water. People are not going to be taking credit cards. So have some cash. Stash some in your home, put it in your go kit, do something, but you're going to want to have cash. If times get desperate, people barter. People bargain for stuff. If you're desperate and you want something during a desperate time, your only bet to get it is going to be cash. So have some money with you. Pack appropriately. I didn't mean to be gender specific on this. It just kind of worked out with the pictures. In fact, it probably would be the other way around. But, we talk about being able to carry your emergency go kit. Yeah, that looks like a lot, and maybe there's a lot of people here that can't carry all that. So, think about having a little wagon, or think about having something that's going to help you drag all this stuff out of your house to your car, or carry it with you when you go somewhere. Again, that whole list of emergency go stuff, it's a lot. It's a lot to carry. I mean, 3 gallons of water, that's already enough, right? And then you add on clothes, blankets, radio, flashlights, batteries. It's a lot of weight. So pack appropriately. I don't know how else. I mean, you could see they have suitcases with wheels on it. That's an idea, you know. Common go bags are like backpacks, you know, where you strap it on your back and you go. But again, what if that's 60 pounds and you got to walk from Coyote neighborhood all the way down to Sloan's, okay? Because whatever, I mean, that's a lot of weight to carry. So think about it. And again, this program was designed not for you to walk away and go, oh, geez, what am I going to do? This program is designed for you to start thinking about what you're going to do if something happens here. Okay, what is my shelter-in-place plan? Create a stay-at-home kit with at least 2 weeks of supplies. Stores and pharmacies might be closed. Again, medications. You know, if the pharmacies are closed because either their workers can't get to work, or they get wrecked, or their things are done, then you're not going to get your meds. So plan with 2 weeks of supplies. Have an adequate supply of food and water. Have an adequate supply of your medications. Make sure you have a first aid kit at home. Notify your contact person that you are staying in place, and let family members know. And the reason you would do that is because let them know, and if, let's say, a hurricane came through and then a second one came through, they want to know where you are. If you've told them you're staying in place, then they know where to send somebody to find you if they can't reach you later. Know your safe zone inside your house and stay there until it's safe to come out. Utilities may be offline, and be prepared to live without power, gas, and water, or propane in this case, okay? So one of those things to take away from that is, and people always ask me this, what about generators? That's up to you. If you're able to operate one and you're able to safely, you know, make sure that you have one and you keep it maintenance regularly and everything, then by all means have a generator. What are you going to power with your generator? Your refrigerator, maybe, to keep your food safe, a few lights here and there. So, you know, those are things that you talk to somebody with a lot more experience about generators and electricity, about what's your plan for a generator, or even a whole home generator for that matter. Gas, or in our case propane, AmeriGas, Suburban, I don't think in a natural disaster they're going to be out delivering propane. So make sure you check your tanks regularly. Make sure you keep them topped off. You know, winter is coming, so you're going to be using more of your propane soon, fireplaces, etc. And in that instance too, if you have a propane or gas type fireplace, that's going to be your source of heat this winter, and that's going to be your source of heat if all the power goes out, because you'll still be able to use that fireplace for a little bit of ambient light, not romantic ambient light in an emergency, but a little ambient light and some warmth. And then water. We might have to shut down the water because it gets contaminated, so be prepared to live without some of that stuff. And then again, going back to use a generator when it's safe to do so, and follow the instructions when using it. Things to do or have before a disaster. Utility shut-off operation. If you're going to shut your utilities off, know how and when to turn off your utilities if needed. Have the tools to do so if required. There's a lot of people here that have no clue. No clue where their water meter is, have no clue how to turn it off, okay? Learn how to, or ask, or you have a neighbor that knows how to, have your neighbor show you, or make sure that your neighbor will be available to help you. Fire extinguishers, know how to use them. I've seen so many YouTube videos where somebody tried to use a fire extinguisher, they don't know how to pull the pin out of it, okay? So let's learn how to use it. Smoke alarms, CO2 alarms, verify they're a good working order, which I'm sure Tellico Village Fire Department has a great program where they come out and inspect your fire smoke alarms and stuff, so utilize them. Insurance, make sure you have adequate coverage in the event of a disaster. First aid, CPR, AED, take a class. If you're inclined to do so, even just for the knowledge of knowing how to do it, I hope nobody ever has to use it, but just know how to do it. Inventory and photograph your home possessions. This is for insurance purposes. You want to be able to provide that information later to your insurance company if your home gets leveled, what you did have, and not have to argue about what you did and didn't have. Make sure your vehicles are in good working order and you have filled the gas tank. There's a lot of people here in Tellico Village that don't drive even 5,000 miles a year. I don't know how that's possible. But, you know, they don't get an oil change then once a year, or they don't check their tires, or you need to make sure your vehicles are in good working order. If you have to evacuate and you have to get in that car, it better be able to take you somewhere. And make sure you filled the gas tank. I do notice prior to hurricanes, you'll see it on the news and stuff, you'll see the lines at the gas stations, you know, because everybody's filling their gas tanks, okay? So there's a reason, it's because if they have to leave, they want to make sure that they got enough gas in that tank to get out far enough where they're going to be safe. So fill your gas tanks. Vital records and documents. Things to have or do, okay? Make sure you have documents in place. Again, power of attorneys, trusts, living wills, your medical records, things that you need to have in order before a disaster, and then reduce home hazards. If you've got that step off your deck that's warped and it creaks, and every time you walk down it, there's a problem, maybe it's time to fix it. Maybe it's time to reduce some home hazards that you have, because in an event of a disaster, those things are going to get worse. These are some references in regards to resources. A lot of this information was taken from some of this. However, the federal government has a ready.gov website, and that ready.gov website has a ton of information on it. You can get lost reading it all day long. American Red Cross has how to prepare for emergencies on their website. We have a Loudoun County Emergency Management Department. That's their website, and then the Hyper Reach alerting systems. And I'll leave that screen up for a second if anybody wanted to take a picture of it. I saw a few folks doing that. Okay, so you want to be more involved in the Tellico Village Neighborhood Watch program. Make sure you're signed up for the Telegram. Meet your Neighborhood Watch coordinators, and we need Neighborhood Watch street leaders, and that means you. And I want to talk just a little bit again about the Neighborhood Watch program. 2025, we're really going to expand that program, and we want to try to become the model program for the whole area, for the whole region. And that's going to take a lot of work. And so we want people to say, when they come to Tellico Village, oh yeah, there's a great Neighborhood Watch program. You can do this, you can do that, and whatever. And when I ask somebody to be a coordinator, or I ask somebody, hey, do you want to be a street leader? I know what goes through their head, because it would be the same thing if I was on the other side of that flyer or that email or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't really have time. Oh, I really don't want to be involved. Right? I don't think so. And to be honest with you, it's not asking for a lot. It's just asking for you to keep your eyes open and watch out for everybody. Because if you don't watch out for everybody, then nobody's watching out for you. And we're a much stronger and bigger and better community if we take care of each other. Again, our resources are limited. Loudoun County Sheriff's Department only has so many deputies, and those deputies are spread out. They are handling more violent and more important calls in other areas than Tellico Village, because we really have low crime rate. I track every single day the call load for Tellico Village only, and we have maybe on an average 3 to 7 calls for service in Tellico Village a day. Now that sounds like a lot, but out of that, let's say 6, 3 are 911 hang-ups by accident. Somebody's hit their phone. And the other 3 might be somebody's opened their door and forgot to turn their alarm off on their home, okay? So let's be thankful that those are the 6 calls for service in Tellico Village right now, and we're not having a shooting, a stabbing, a robbery, a break-in. Those are volatile crimes that are happening in other areas, but not here. So we just need to make sure that we keep our program up, running, and involved, and we take care of each other. And again, are you prepared? I handed out that trifold that everybody got, and I believe it will hopefully be posted on the internet on the Telegram. It has most of the bullets from today's presentation. Think about everything that you learned today, and I thank you for attending today's presentation. And I'll be taking questions after. We're going to go off of TVN, and if you want to stick around and ask any questions, I'll be here for a little bit. Thank you.